Hey guys, Mike here. So, oh boy, what a day in the market for risky assets for sure. I mean, small caps were booming, tech's booming, S&P, hey, got over that 5,000 and went, whoo, see you later. But that's Fridays, right? Like we were talking with the members. I mean, Fridays so far since November, now to be 73% of the time, have been green. It's been those squeezy days, as they like to call it. And today was just another one like that. And we're going to look at something today. One, what does it look like the second year, right, into a bull market? What does that look like? The returns. Also, something that hadn't happened on the S&P since 1929. And I went back through the charts, and I'm pretty sure I verified this one because I couldn't believe when I saw it. But I'll show that to you. And then a couple things to watch out for in the stocks. Like you can see some breaking out and everything, or some are at levels where they most likely will. But also, tomorrow we'll have, a video answering all your questions, and Sunday we'll go into a lot more detailed charts and everything to set up the week along with earnings and things like that, because we still have a lot of earnings coming out. And we're getting into the really high beta stuff, right? It's what you saw this week, it's what you're going to see next week. So it'll be pretty fun to say the least. So I did want to answer a few questions for you guys today, though. People talking to me about the jobs data that came out and everything, and all these jobs that created. Understand, a lot's government and a whole lot, 20% of it, is healthcare, right? Because what was happening? They were hiring travel nurses, temporary people, so finally they're getting all these permanent people in place. So 70,000 of, I believe it was 350,000 jobs were healthcare by themselves, and a whole boatload was government as well. And I did want to put this out here. Anytime I get this data, I'll let you know about it. But this was showing the delinquencies for the cars, right? And you can just see what the generation that's popping up the most, right? The millennials, the Gen Zers. And I just thought to myself, I know when people see this, I don't think you should be surprised. But you can see this goes back to 2018 and stuff. And again, it's not even where it was in 2019. So until you get past those, I wouldn't even sweat any of this stuff, because I know the 90-day delinquency is getting up there, but not to the point where people should need to be sweating or anything. But I thought to myself, can you remember back when you were coming out of college, how broke you were? You're a college grad, you're drowning in student loan debt, you shouldn't be having that much money in your name. And I just couldn't imagine graduating college nowadays, of being a young person coming out of high school and maybe not going to college, maybe you're going to do something else, just trying to get on your own and survive, and trying to buy a car, trying to rent. Have you seen the rents? Even still, I mean, these things are high. Buying a house, that's completely off the table for you. But I just couldn't imagine. I know we don't have any mercy on the younger generations, and we say, oh well, it is what it is. But I'm like, wow, man, these guys, they are screwed, man, for at least the next 5 years, probably, maybe. I mean, unless we have some major correction in the housing market and they can finally get in something. But just sit there and rent for all that time, because, let me know if you're in that generation, you're able to buy a house, and what your thoughts on the rent. But I mean, it's a totally different situation when I was coming out, or my brother. We're two different generations as well. And so, again, I know the comments are going to blow up, and it's like, forget those guys, they're lazy, whatever. Every generation is different. And so, these guys are a lot more tech savvy than I was, and all that good stuff. I don't know about the work ethic or anything. A lot of my meat I'm suspicious about, but some of my meat, they work really hard, and by the way, don't blame that generation, this younger generation. Guess who raised them? It was our generation and my brother's generation. So if you're going to blame somebody, you might want to look in the mirror before you blame them, okay? So just kind of put that out there to you. That'll upset a lot of people. Now, looking into the bull market as far as the second year is concerned, and it might surprise you. I mean, historically here, again, second year of bull market is positive 93% of the time. This does not mean we're not going to go on a roller coaster and you're going to have pullbacks and all this good stuff and corrections, all that. But when you look on here, and I'm just going to focus on probably maybe 1994 or whatever, but you can see, I mean, 6%, 8%, 16%, 14%, and we'll see what 2024 brings. 2023 brought 22%. And we'll see. And again, positive, if it's 1%, that's positive. Okay, so understand, when it says positive, that's all I was looking for. You can see 1982 was 2%. So you can imagine that thing was so up and down. And so right now, I mean, what are we up? 5% on the S&P, I believe, for the year already. We're in February or some crazy mess. And so, again, we'll take this with a grain of salt and everything. But when you look at the S&P 500, you can see what happened today. But before we look at that, good news is, our friends over at Seeking Alpha have a 55% off of a program they have called Alpha Picks. It's a whopping $89. And when you look on the website, you'll see they have a team basically running a portfolio, right? And so when you scroll down, you'll get to see the portfolio right there. And, you know, like for example, they were in super micro back in 11.15, so it's up massive. But you just scroll down, each one of them, you know, has a detailed write-up on it for you. If you're one of those people you like to sit there and have ideas and the detailed write-ups and everything of certain stocks, and they're doing pretty good. I mean, they're up almost 100%, right? Versus S&P's up 31. And here's one of those detailed write-ups, like when they presented, you know, super micro, and they'll keep putting these out there to you as they own the stock. If they sell it, they're going to let you know and stuff. But you can see just about everything you want to know about super micros in here. You'll get emails showing you, hey, here's a buy alert, here's a sell alert, here's why we're buying, here's why we're selling, and all that good stuff. And then you'll also get invited to webinars, so you'll get to listen to detail from the team running the portfolio and stuff. And so if it's something that interests you, just go down in the description right below this video, hit right there, $89, hit that link, and you can sign up and take advantage of that, and let me know how you like it, okay? Now, and when we look at the S&P, you can see once it broke that 5,000, like officially really broke, not that little 10-second thing it did yesterday, just took off. I mean, that's what happens. How many times have we seen this? Something sets at a new all-time high, just takes off. There, you know, there's nothing there, and everybody's been kind of waiting on it. So orders were just sitting there. These, especially these round number levels, by the way, 5,000, 4,500, 4,000. There's usually orders just sitting there waiting to be filled. And so it just took off, especially if it happened to be a Friday. That makes it even easier. As I've told you, how many are green since November, it's insane. But when you look, this is what's nuts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1 red, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 14 out of 15 have been green weeks. That's not days. That is weeks. And what's crazy, to show you how rare this is, this hadn't happened since 1972. So most of us were not even born the last time this happened. And the fact it's doing it with rates this high and everything else is absolutely amazing. So like I said, year of first, it's not a year of first, but it sure is a first in my lifetime. There's been many of them over the last 3 to 4 years, right? I'm sure you can say the same things. I keep bringing them to you. Now, what's HYG doing? Same thing. You got S&P at the top. It's raging higher. HYG, again, until you set that lower low, until this really starts to trickle down, it's nothing to be concerned about. It's something to be aware of. The smart money is like, oh boy, these things are getting kind of nosebleedy, right? I mean, that's why you're seeing extreme greed indexes, and you're seeing this big move up, but what you're not seeing is a whole lot of participation going into it, which we'll look at in just a second. But again, what are the things to look for coming up? The dollar, right? Came in that fair value gap a few days ago, sold off, hadn't really done anything since, didn't sell down, just kind of been doing its thing. It is in a short-term uptrend starting in 2024, so the question is, does it just sell off, like the number one right there says, which would be really good for stocks, or do we start trending back up in that fair value gap, which I'd be shocked if it made it through it, and then start to sell off? That's what we got to find out here. And when you look at what's going on with participation, right? We pull up the QQQ, the SPY, the IWM, the QQEW. These are the equal weight ETFs for the Qs, and the SPY RSP you can see is way behind. Barely green for February when you got the S&P raging 3.75% or 3.75%, almost 5 on the Qs, IWM's coming back. When you look at 2024, you can see RSP is up 1.17, while the SPY is up almost 6 full percentage points, right? And so that one not having a lot of love at all going on because of all the different sectors. You're seeing this in the earnings too, so it's not too surprising. But it's something to keep an eye on. Now, when it comes to the NASDAQ, I told you, this is the one that has not hit all-time highs. It was like 3.5% off when I talked to you about it Sunday. And now you look at it, it's only like 1.5% off from all-time highs. And I was like, do you really think they're going to sell this market off before they get this thing up there? That's really the big question to watch because it ain't very far. And you see how much we moved today, right? So it can be done very easily, especially with no mega cap support anymore until like the 3rd week of February, which would be NVIDIA. Now, IWM, you can look at this in a couple ways. One, you got this formation that's breaking out of right there, still at a big level right there, not quite above the 200 mark right there. It did close above that, but you can see the reason why you want to get above that 200 because that's when you start to get a bigger squeeze will probably happen. If you can get above it, again, it's been a trip here so far. It's been 1, 2, 3, 4 failures, right? Is the 5th time going to be a charm to finally get up through this thing? That's what we got to find out. It's kind of weird that small caps are rallying because, the whole point in small caps were, they're going to cut rates. Now it's been pushed way back by a few months, and these things are rallying right now. So definitely interesting to see that happening right now. Tesla, again, you can see this trend line, obviously sitting there since the 5th, been in an upward trend, right? So a short-term upward trend line here. Maybe you see this as a rising wedge also. You can see that. I mean, it looks pretty plain and simple to see it, right? And so again, this one right here is coming up. and it did not get to its weekly projected move around 196.50 right there. Right above that move was going to be that RTH gap right there. And so again, if this one can get up above, and what has to happen, it has to get above that 196, because that was this high right here after we gapped down that we sold off from. And when you look at this, I pulled up the 200 weekly moving average, because that was the thing it got rejected on 4 times. Okay, that will be the first moving average it runs into. Well, that's not all the way to like 220. It's moving, of course, so it'll probably come down to 215 by next week. But if it can get past around like 195.80, I believe that is, then it can start moving up in this RTH gap right here. Remember, gap downs feel a lot more than gap ups because the stock market is normally going up. And again, Tesla will sometimes trade against the market, so if the market does start to go flat. And the one thing I still haven't seen, let me know if you have, I still have not seen call sweeps, right? I've seen call sweeps for all the semiconductor stocks. I even saw some for Google. I've seen it for Meta this week, but I have not seen it for Tesla really rolling it right now. And that's the only way Tesla really has crazy moves, right? Sustained moves like that. Now, Google, watch out for Google here, but you can see this right here starting to fill that RTH gap. That is all-time highs to the left, as you can see over there, previous all-time highs. It's already set a new all-time high, as you can see right above it. But it's moving pretty quickly for Google, especially through this. This is not one of these high flyers or anything. And so this one's moving quick through that RTH gap. Could feel it. I think you'll probably get resistance next week. I mean, first resistance is going to be around like 150.75 right there. But then again, that's all-time highs right there. So it could just be heading right up to the top of that channel. We've seen it multiple times. Another one would be drawing a trend line right down the middle right there, which also would intersect 152.75 as well. And we pull out, and put the MACD and RSI on here. And I mean, you can see about to have a bullish cross on the MACD for the daily. And then, of course, RSI is above 50, looking good, moving back up. So keep that in mind. Remember, this is one of those picks for 2024, right, for an AI play. AMD looks like this one's wedging again. And when it wedges, you get these explosive moves, right? So there it is. Probably got a couple more days if it's going to stay in that wedge or move up. Again, I've seen call sweeps, calls just rolling in, basically. Calls upon calls, put selling. We'll see if that momentum continues. That's what's been happening on every earnings, it seems like, for these semiconductor stocks, especially. And with NVIDIA not reporting, you can keep seeing this. And it's, speaking of being on a roll, I mean, look at this. This is NVIDIA's weekly chart. Every time I look at this, I'm like, wow. And if we scroll this back here, I mean, just a straight up like acceleration, right? I mean, that is nuts when you see that. You rarely get to see it, especially on a mega cap, but that's what continues to happen right now. And I don't talk about this, and I get questions all the time like, oh, what about crypto? Look, I'm not a crypto expert. I kind of try to stay in my lane, and plus I don't like getting the crypto bots going. But, clean spot right there, that's CLSK. Reported earnings up 33%. Now, do I own crypto miners? Absolutely, I own crypto miners. I own CLSK. I own Mara, right? Do I plan on building out if we get a pullback? Sure, even more. May not get it. We'll have to see. Remember the halvings in April. And so got a few months right there, but right now Bitcoin's raging, and so that's why these are going, right? And so as long as Bitcoin's moving, they're moving. Everybody keeps calling for, Bitcoin to, sell off and go down to this and go down to that. But, I mean, we'll see what happens on that one. Especially, again, I think a lot of this stuff's going to be off because of the ETFs now, and they own a lot of it, and they keep buying. And so, again, I mean, like I said, I own a couple of these, and like I said, it was risk on, right? I mean, crypto's going, a lot of other risky stuff, small caps. And so congrats to anybody that owns the miners as well. Now, why you got to be careful playing earnings? Look at a firm. Look at the manipulation here. Crazy moves up. It goes up like 20%, drops like 30%, then runs back up another 20% in pre-market and after hours before the market opens, then drops back off. What is that? Like another 20% down right there? I mean, you're talking about killing premiums and stuff. I think you could have played both ways on this, and you still would have lost money. I mean, but that is nuts. That is pure manipulation right there. Just insane. You can see where it caught the bottom, right? It was right there. It was in a bull flag. Right there is where it bounced on top of that trend line for the bull flag. But it just goes to show that's why playing earnings is nothing but a gamble. Sometimes you win a lottery ticket like people deal with ARM, by the way. In the comments, I'll put that. Congratulations, and love to hear it. Okay, absolutely love to hear that. It just puts a smile on my face, so thank you for sharing that. And I hope you take some of that money and you take your spouse or somebody else to a nice dinner or go do something this weekend and really enjoy it, okay? Don't just sit on the money. Go do something a little bit with it, I think, what's that rule? I forgot who the famous investor said. You got to take like 10% or something like that and go do something with it, right? And spend it and just enjoy it. Because let's be real, that's all it was a gamble. I mean, if you win something in Vegas, aren't you going to do something fun with a little bit of money? So, go on out and do something with it. So anyway, we'll end up answering your questions tomorrow and stuff. Great questions, by the way. I had to cut that video way down. Y'all asked so many questions. I certainly appreciate it. And then Sunday, we'll set it for the week because it'll be another big week of high beta earnings, things of that nature coming up. And also, we'll have a CPI next week, if I'm not mistaken. So economic data that could sway the market. And on top of that, a big monthly OPEX. Okay, so keep that in mind. So I think a lot of people are waiting to see what happens on this one. So anyway, hope you got something out of it. Hit that like and subscribe button. Really appreciate all you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.